I know where you are. 3 words on a cracked phone screen. That's all it took to turn a quiet December evening into a nightmare. Maya's hand shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. Behind her, 5-year-old Lily laughed at cartoons, completely unaware. Ethan stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, watching the color drain from Maya's face. He'd taken her in 3 weeks ago, a desperate stranger with bruises she wouldn't explain. He told himself it was temporary, one night of charity, maybe 2. But charity doesn't prepare you for the moment danger finds your address. The doorbell rang. Before we begin, if you're watching this story unfold, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels. Now, let's dive in. The parking lot was nearly empty when Ethan Cross first saw her. It was one of those December afternoons where the cold doesn't just chill, it cuts. The kind of weather that makes you question why anyone lives north of Virginia. Ethan had just finished a conference call in his SUV, the leather seat still warm from the heated function he'd clicked on without thinking. Wealth did that. Made comfort so automatic you forgot what cold actually felt like. He was about to pull out when he noticed her, a woman, maybe 30, sitting on the curb near the grocery store entrance. Her jacket was too thin for the weather, pulled tight around her body like it might generate warmth through sheer will. Her hair hung in her face, dark and tangled. She wasn't homeless. At least, she didn't look it. Her jeans were clean, her boots decent. But there was something about the way she sat there, perfectly still, that made Ethan's hand pause on the gear shift. She looked like someone who'd run out of places to run. Ethan had built a career on reading people. You didn't become a billionaire by 32 without learning to spot desperation, ambition, fear. He'd seen all of it across boardroom tables, in the eyes of competitors, in the faces of employees who'd bet everything on his company. But this was different. This looked like surrender. He should have driven away. That's what the logical part of his brain said, the part that had kept him alive and thriving in a world that ate the careless for breakfast. He had a daughter waiting at home, a 5-year-old who depended on him for everything because her mother was gone and wasn't coming back. The last thing Lily needed was her father getting involved with whatever mess this woman was clearly running from. But Ethan had learned something else in his 32 years. Logic doesn't always win. He turned off the engine. The woman didn't look up when he approached. She was staring at the asphalt like it held answers, her breath coming out in small white clouds. "You okay?" Stupid question. Obviously she wasn't okay. She lifted her head slowly. Her eyes were brown, ringed with exhaustion that made her look older than she probably was. There was a bruise along her left cheekbone, yellowing at the edges. Healing. And when she pulled her jacket tighter, Ethan caught a glimpse of another bruise circling her wrist like a bracelet. "I'm fine." Her voice was quiet, almost automatic. The kind of lie you tell when you've said it so many times you almost believe it yourself. Ethan should have nodded and walked away. Instead, he crouched down so he wasn't towering over her. "That why you're sitting in a parking lot in 20-degree weather, looking like you've got nowhere to go?" Her jaw tightened. "I didn't ask for your help." "No, you didn't." He paused. "But I'm offering anyway." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and Ethan saw something flicker across her face. Calculation, maybe. Or hope buried so deep she'd forgotten it was there. Why? The single word carried a lifetime of suspicion. Fair question. Ethan didn't have a good answer. Or maybe he had too many answers, all of them tangled up with memories of his late wife, with the ache of raising a daughter alone, with the bone-deep knowledge that sometimes the difference between making it and not making it is whether someone bothers to stop. "Because you look like you need it," he said simply. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You don't know anything about me." "True." Ethan straightened up, his knees protesting slightly. He wasn't old, but he wasn't 22 anymore either. "But I know what running looks like. And I know what it's like to need help and be too proud to ask for it." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, so quietly, he almost missed it. "Can I come home with you?" The question hung in the freezing air between them. Ethan's first instinct was to say no. Every rational bone in his body screamed that this was a terrible idea. He had a daughter to protect, a life he'd carefully rebuilt after losing Sarah. Letting a complete stranger, a woman clearly fleeing some kind of violence, Into that world went against everything his survival instincts had taught him. But then she looked up at him again, and he saw it. The same look Lily had given him the first time she'd had a nightmare after Sarah died. That desperate, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would choose not to let her drown alone. "One night," Ethan heard himself say. "You can stay one night. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." The relief that washed over her face made his chest hurt. The drive to Ethan's house was quiet. The woman, she'd mumbled her name was Maya when she'd climbed into his SUV, sat pressed against the passenger door like she was ready to bolt at any second. Ethan didn't push. He'd done enough damage control in business meetings to recognize when silence was the better option. His house sat on 2 acres in a neighborhood where the lots were measured in privacy rather than proximity. It wasn't showy. Ethan had never been the type to need a mansion to prove his worth, but it was comfortable, warm, the kind of place Sarah had dreamed of before. He cut off that thought before it could finish. "I have a daughter," he said as he pulled into the driveway. "Lily, she's 5. And before you ask, no, her mother isn't in the picture." Maya glanced at him, something unreadable in her expression. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." Ethan turned off the engine. "Just letting you know so you're not surprised. She's probably got her face pressed to the window right now, wondering why I'm late." Sure enough, when Ethan looked up, there was Lily, a tiny silhouette backlit by the living room lamp, her hands cupped around her eyes as she peered through the glass. Maya's mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. "She's beautiful." "She's a terror," Ethan said, but his voice was soft. "Come on, let's get you inside before we both freeze to death." The moment they walked through the door, Lily launched herself at Ethan's legs with the kind of enthusiasm only a 5-year-old could muster. "Daddy, Mrs. Chen made mac and cheese, but it's the boring kind without the good cheese, and I told her you wouldn't like it, but she said you'd eat it anyway, and—" She stopped mid-sentence, having finally noticed Maya standing awkwardly in the entryway. "Who's that?" "This is Maya," Ethan said, gently extracting himself from Lily's grip. "She's going to stay with us for a little while. Think you can be nice?" Lily tilted her head, studying Maya with the kind of unself-conscious scrutiny only children could get away with. "You're pretty, but you look sad." Maya blinked, caught off guard. Thank you?" "It's okay to be sad sometimes," Lily continued, completely unbothered. "Daddy gets sad when he looks at pictures of Mommy. I tell him it's okay because being sad means you loved something. That's what Mrs. Chen says." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "Lily." "It's okay," Maya said softly. She crouched down to Lily's level, and Ethan saw her wince slightly, old injuries protesting. "Your Mrs. Chen sounds very wise." "She is," Lily beamed. "She's making dinner right now. Do you like mac and cheese? It's the boring kind, but Daddy says we should be grateful anyway." "I love mac and cheese," Maya said, and this time there was something genuine in her voice. "Boring kind or not." Lily grabbed her hand. "Come on, I'll show you my room." And just like that, the 5-year-old tornado swept Maya down the hallway, leaving Ethan standing alone in the foyer, wondering what the hell he'd just gotten himself into. Mrs. Chen was Ethan's saving grace, a 60-something woman who'd been helping with Lily since Sarah's death. She didn't ask questions when Ethan introduced Maya as a friend who's staying the night, just nodded and set another place at the table. Dinner was awkward in the way these things always are. Lily chattered endlessly about her day, her upcoming school play, the gross boy in her class who ate paste. Maya picked at her food, offering small smiles and shorter answers. Ethan watched both of them while pretending not to, trying to figure out how someone who looked so broken could still be gentle with his daughter. After Mrs. Chen left and Lily was tucked into bed, after 3 stories, 2 glasses of water, and 1 elaborate negotiation about whether stuffed animals needed their own blankets, Ethan found Maya standing in the living room, staring out the large window that overlooked the backyard. "She's asleep," he said. Maya didn't turn around. "She's special, your daughter." "Yeah." Ethan moved to stand beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "She is." Silence settled between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Just heavy, like there were 1,000 words neither of them knew how to say. "I should tell you," Maya finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not a good person to have around." "Let me guess. Ethan said. The bruises? Her hand moved unconsciously to her wrist, pulling her sleeve down to cover the marks. It's complicated. It always is. Ethan crossed his arms, not because he was angry, but because he didn't know what else to do with them. You don't have to tell me tonight. Hell, you don't have to tell me at all. But if you're staying under my roof, even for one night, I need to know if I should be worried about someone showing up looking for you. Maya's laugh was bitter. You should always be worried about that. There it was, the confirmation of what Ethan had already suspected. Ex-boyfriend? He asked. Ex-fiancé? The word came out like broken glass. Ryan. Ethan waited. Maya wrapped her arms around herself. He's not the kind of man who accepts no for an answer, about anything. The bruises suddenly made a lot more sense. How long since you left? 2 weeks. Maya's voice cracked slightly. I've been staying in shelters mostly, moving around. I thought if I kept moving, he wouldn't be able to find me. But, Ethan prompted gently, but he always finds me. She turned to look at him, and Ethan saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the kind that came from running on empty for too long. I don't know why I asked to come with you. I shouldn't have. It was selfish. I was so tired of being alone. Ethan understood that feeling more than he cared to admit. One night, he repeated. Tomorrow, we'll figure out what comes next. Together. But tonight, you sleep in a warm bed in a safe house. Deal? Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Ethan showed her to the guest room, a space that hadn't been used since Sarah's sister visited last Christmas. It felt strange, letting someone into this part of the house. Strange, but not wrong. Bathroom's across the hall, he said. There should be extra towels in the closet. If you need anything, Ethan. Maya's voice stopped him at the door. Thank you. For not asking more questions, for not judging. He shrugged. Everyone's running from something. You're just more honest about it than most people. He closed the door behind him and stood in the hallway for a moment, listening to the house settle around him. Lily's soft breathing from down the hall, the hum of the furnace kicking on, and somewhere behind the guest room door, the sound of a woman who'd finally stopped running, at least for one night. Ethan had no idea that one night would turn into something that would change all their lives. He went to bed thinking about bruises and broken promises and the look in Maya's eyes when Lily had called her pretty. He fell asleep not knowing that 3 weeks from now he'd be standing in this same hallway watching Maya's hands shake as she stared at a message on her phone. I know where you are. The next morning arrived with the kind of winter sunlight that promised nothing, cold and pale and indifferent. Ethan woke to find Lily already up, which was never a good sign. She was supposed to stay in bed until he came to get her, a rule established after the Great Pancake incident of last February. He found her sitting cross-legged outside the guest room door, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. Lily, Ethan said, his voice still rough with sleep. What are you doing? Waiting, she whispered, as if that explained everything. Maya's still sleeping. I didn't want her to be scared when she woke up. Something in Ethan's chest twisted. That's very thoughtful, he said carefully. But maybe we should let her sleep as long as she needs to, okay? She's probably tired. Because she's sad? Out of the mouths of babes. Yeah, sweetheart. Because she's sad. Lily nodded solemnly, then stood up. Okay. Can we make the good pancakes? With chocolate chips? Maybe that would help. Ethan couldn't help but smile. Maybe it would. They were in the kitchen, Lily on her special stool, helping mix batter while somehow getting more of it on herself than in the bowl, when Maya appeared in the doorway. She looked better. Not good exactly, but better. She'd showered, her hair pulled back into a wet ponytail. She was wearing the same clothes from yesterday, but at least they looked cleaner. Morning, Ethan said, keeping his voice neutral. Coffee? Please. Maya moved into the kitchen hesitantly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed. Maya, Lily announced, we're making the good pancakes. Daddy never makes the good pancakes except on special days, and I told him you being here was special, so... Lily, Ethan interrupted gently. Breathe. His daughter giggled, turning back to her mixing. They ate breakfast in a silence that was almost comfortable. Lily filled the gaps with her usual endless commentary, and Maya smiled at the right moments. and Ethan found himself watching the way morning light caught in her hair and hating himself a little for noticing. After breakfast, after Lily was dressed and her backpack was packed and Mrs. Chen had arrived to take her to school, Ethan and Maya sat across from each other at the kitchen table. "So," Ethan said, "tomorrow's here." Maya wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "I'll leave after lunch. I just need to figure out where—" "That wasn't what I meant." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "I meant we need to figure out a real plan, not just you bouncing from shelter to shelter hoping this Ryan guy doesn't find you." "There is no plan," Maya said flatly. "There's just surviving, day by day." "That's not a plan. That's barely existing." "Well, maybe that's all I've got." There was an edge to her voice now, defensive. "Look, I appreciate what you did. I do. But you don't know Ryan. You don't know what he's capable of. So tell me." Maya went very still. "Tell me what I'm dealing with," Ethan continued. "Because if you're going to keep running, fine, that's your choice. But if there's even a small chance that you want to stop running, then I need to know what we're up against." "We?" Maya's laugh was sharp. "There is no we. You picked up a stranger in a parking lot. That doesn't make you responsible for my mess." "Maybe not," Ethan agreed. "But it doesn't change the fact that I'm offering to help." "Why?" The question exploded out of her. "Why do you care? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. So why are you sitting here acting like what?" Ethan asked quietly. "Like I'm worth saving." The words hung in the air between them, raw and painful. Ethan took a breath. "My wife died 2 years ago. Cancer. She fought like hell, but sometimes fighting isn't enough." He paused, watching Maya's face. "You know what the worst part was? Everyone else had already given up. The doctors, the specialists, even some of our friends. They'd look at her and see someone who was already gone. But Sarah never gave up on herself. Not until the very end." Maya's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "So yeah," Ethan said. "I care. Because I know what it looks like when someone's still fighting, even when they look defeated. And I'll be damned if I'm going to be one more person who walks away." Maya was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "His name is Ryan Walker. We were together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. She took a shaky breath. "At first, he was perfect. Charming, attentive, successful. Everyone loved him. My friends thought I was lucky. My parents thought he was the best thing that ever happened to me." "When did it change?" Ethan asked gently. "Slowly. So slowly I didn't even notice at first." Maya stared into her coffee cup like it might offer escape. "Little comments about what I wore, who I talked to. Then he started wanting to know where I was all the time. Then he started checking my phone, then—" She trailed off. "Then he hit you." Maya nodded. "The first time he cried, apologized, swore it would never happen again, blamed it on stress at work, too much to drink. And I believed him because I wanted to believe him." Her voice hardened. "The second time he didn't apologize. He just told me I shouldn't have made him angry." Ethan felt his hands curl into fists under the table. "I tried to leave," Maya continued, 4 times. He found me every time. The last time—" She pulled up her sleeve, showing Ethan a scar that ran along her forearm. "He put me in the hospital, told the doctors I'd fallen down the stairs." "Jesus," Ethan breathed. "The restraining order didn't work. He has friends in the police department, connections everywhere, and he's smart, really smart. He knows how to hurt me without leaving marks that last too long, how to make everyone think I'm the unstable one." Maya's voice cracked. "So I ran, and I've been running ever since." Ethan sat back, processing. This was worse than he'd thought. A guy with resources, connections, and a pathological need for control. The kind of threat you couldn't just punch your way out of. "Does he know you're in the city?" Ethan asked. "I don't know. Maybe. Probably." Maya rubbed her face tiredly. "He's got people watching the shelters, places I used to go. That's why I've been moving around so much." "What about family, friends?" "He knows them all. They're the first places he'd look." She met Ethan's eyes. "I'm alone. Completely alone. And that's exactly how he wants me." Ethan made a decision. "Stay." Maya blinked. "What?" "Stay here. Not just for one night. Stay until we figure out a real solution." "Ethan, you can't—" I can, and I am. He held up a hand to forestall her protest. Look, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but you staying in shelters, moving every few days, never sleeping, that's not sustainable. Eventually you'll make a mistake or he'll get lucky, and then what? But Lily adores you already, Ethan said. And before you argue that you're putting her in danger, think about this. This house has a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous. I've got cameras, sensors, the works, and I've got resources Ryan probably doesn't know about. Lawyers, private investigators, people who owe me favors. Why would you do this? Maya asked again, but this time there was less disbelief and more desperate hope. Because someone needs to. Ethan leaned forward. And because I have a 5-year-old daughter who's going to grow up in a world where men like Ryan exist, maybe I can't protect every woman from guys like that. But I can protect you, if you'll let me. Maya was crying now, silent tears tracking down her cheeks. I don't know how to repay. I'm not asking you to repay anything, Ethan cut her off. I'm asking you to stay safe, to let someone help you for once. Can you do that? Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Good. Ethan stood up. Then it's settled. You'll stay here. We'll keep you off the grid, figure out the legal options, see what we can do about making sure Ryan can't find you. And if he does? Maya's voice was small. Ethan's expression hardened. Then he'll have to go through me first. What? The first week was an adjustment. Maya moved through the house like a ghost, quiet and careful not to take up too much space. She helped with Lily where she could, picking her up from school when Mrs. Chen was busy, helping with homework, reading bedtime stories in a soft voice that made Lily's eyes grow heavy with sleep. Ethan watched the two of them together and felt something shift in his chest. Lily hadn't been this happy since Sarah died. She laughed more, talked more, dragged Maya around the house, showing her every toy and drawing an interesting rock she'd collected. And Maya was starting to smile more. Real smiles, not the cautious half-expressions she'd worn those first few days. She still jumped at loud noises, still checked the locks on doors and windows obsessively, but slowly, so slowly, some of the tension began to leave her shoulders. Ethan kept his distance, mostly. He was in his home office during the day, handling business calls and video conferences. His company practically ran itself these days, which was both a blessing and a curse. It meant he had flexibility, but it also meant he had too much time to think. Too much time to notice the way Maya tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating. Too much time to appreciate the sound of her laughter when Lily said something ridiculous. Too much time to remember what it felt like to want something besides just getting through the day. He shut those thoughts down as quickly as they appeared. Maya didn't need that from him. She needed safety, stability, protection, not some widower with boundary issues and a hero complex. But ignoring attraction was easier said than done. Daddy? Ethan looked up from his laptop to find Lily standing in his office doorway, clutching a piece of paper. What's up, Bug? Can Maya be my new mommy? The question hit Ethan like a physical blow. Lily, he struggled to find the right words. Maya is our friend. She's staying with us for a while, but that doesn't make her your mommy. But I like her, Lily said, her lower lip trembling. And she's nice, and she doesn't get mad when I spill things or ask too many questions. I know, sweetheart. I like her too. Ethan pulled Lily onto his lap. But becoming someone's mommy is a lot more complicated than just liking someone. Why? Because life is messy and painful and complicated, Ethan thought. Because Maya is running from a man who hurt her and might still hurt her. Because I lost your real mother, and I don't know if I can survive losing someone else. Because it is, he said instead. Lily seemed to accept this, the way children do when they don't really have a choice. She wiggled off his lap and headed for the door, then paused. But if she could be my mommy, she said seriously, I think that would be really nice. Ethan sat alone in his office for a long time after that, staring at nothing and thinking about everything. 2 weeks in, Maya started venturing out more. Short trips to the grocery store, always with Ethan or Mrs. Chen. A walk around the neighborhood when Lily wanted to see Christmas lights. Baby steps toward normalcy. Ethan hired a private investigator, a woman named Carla, who specialized in stalking cases. She did a full workup on Ryan Walker and came back with a file that made Ethan's blood boil. 2 previous girlfriends with restraining orders, multiple complaints that had mysteriously disappeared, a pattern of escalating violence that painted a picture of a man who genuinely believed he owned the women he dated. "He's dangerous," Carla said, sliding the file across Ethan's desk. "And he's smart. He knows how to work the system." "Can we use any of this?" Ethan asked. "Maybe. If Maya's willing to testify, if we can get the other women to come forward, if we can find a prosecutor willing to actually pursue it." Carla's expression was grim. "But that's a lot of ifs. What do you recommend?" "Honestly, keep her hidden. Make it impossible for him to find her. And if he does—" Carla met Ethan's eyes. "Make sure you're ready." Ethan thought about that conversation 3 days later when he came home to find Maya in the kitchen, teaching Lily how to make cookies. They were both covered in flour, laughing at some joke Ethan had missed. Lily's hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail that looked suspiciously like the one Maya wore. They looked like family. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt right. "Daddy!" Lily spotted him. "We made chocolate chip cookies, but we ate some of the dough, so there's not as many as there should be, but Maya said that's the best part." "Is that so?" Ethan raised an eyebrow at Maya. She shrugged, completely unrepentant. "What's the point of making cookies if you don't eat some of the dough?" "See?" Lily said triumphantly. "Maya gets it." Ethan found himself smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. They ate cookies warm from the oven, the 3 of them sitting around the kitchen table while snow began to fall outside. Lily chattered about her upcoming school play, where she'd been cast as a tree. Maya listened with genuine interest, asking questions that made Lily's face light up. And Ethan watched them both, feeling something dangerous unfurl in his chest. Hope. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan found Maya standing at the living room window again. It had become her habit, standing there, watching the darkness like she was waiting for it to swallow her whole. "Can't sleep?" he asked. Maya startled slightly, then relaxed when she saw it was him. "Never can, not really." Ethan moved to stand beside her. "Bad dreams?" "Always." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I keep waiting for him to find me. I know he will eventually. He always does." "Maybe not this time." Maya smiled sadly. "You don't know Ryan." "No," Ethan agreed. "But he doesn't know me either." She turned to look at him, really look at him, and Ethan saw something shift in her expression. "Why are you doing this, Ethan? And don't give me the line about helping people. There has to be more to it than that." Fair question. Ethan had been asking himself the same thing for 2 weeks. "When Sarah died," he said slowly, "I felt helpless. Completely, utterly helpless. I had all this money, all these resources, and none of it mattered. I couldn't save her." He paused. "Maybe I can't save you either. But at least I can try. At least I can do something." "I'm not your second chance," Maya said quietly. "I know." And he did. "But maybe you're just a chance. Period." They stood there in the darkness, 2 broken people trying to figure out how to be whole again, and Ethan let himself imagine, just for a moment, what it might be like if this lasted. If Maya stayed, if Lily got her wish, if he could figure out how to want something again without being terrified of losing it. 3 weeks later, on a cold night in late December, Maya's phone buzzed with a message. And everything changed. The phone sat on the kitchen counter like a bomb waiting to detonate. Maya had been loading the dishwasher when it buzzed, a simple sound that shouldn't have meant anything. But the moment she saw the screen, her hand started shaking so badly she nearly dropped the plate she was holding. "I know where you are." 3 weeks of relative peace shattered in an instant. Ethan was upstairs reading to Lily, his voice a muffled rumble through the ceiling. Maya could hear her laugh at something, that bright, unself-conscious sound that had become as familiar as breathing. The normalcy of it made what was happening feel even more surreal. She picked up the phone with trembling fingers. The number was blocked, but she didn't need to see it to know who'd sent the message. She'd recognize Ryan's particular brand of menace anywhere. Another buzz, another message. Nice house. Very private. Good for keeping secrets. Maya's vision blurred. He knew. Somehow, despite all of Ethan's precautions, despite the security system and the careful movements and staying off social media, Ryan had found her. He always found her. A third message appeared. We need to talk. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't make this difficult, Maya. You know how I hate it when you make things difficult. The phone slipped from her hands and clattered onto the tile floor. Maya stood frozen, her mind a white noise of panic. 10 minutes. She had 10 minutes to… What? Run? She had nowhere to go. Hide. This wasn't her house, wasn't her sanctuary to defile with her mistakes. Tell Ethan. The thought cut through the static in her brain. She should tell Ethan. He'd said to come to him if anything happened, that they'd handle it together. But the stairs felt impossibly far away, and her legs wouldn't move. And all she could think about was Ryan's face the last time she'd tried to leave him. The cold fury in his eyes right before his fist connected with her ribs. Maya! She spun around to find Ethan standing in the kitchen doorway, his expression shifting from curious to alarmed in the space of a heartbeat. What happened? He was across the room in 3 strides, his hands on her shoulders, steadying her. Maya, talk to me. What's wrong? She couldn't form words, just pointed at the phone on the floor. Ethan picked it up, his jaw tightening as he read the messages. When he looked up, his eyes were hard in a way Maya had never seen before. How long? His voice was eerily calm. The first message came 2 minutes ago, Maya managed. He said he'd be here in 10 minutes. Ethan glanced at his watch. So 8 minutes from now. I'm sorry. The words tumbled out in a rush. I don't know how he found me. I've been so careful I didn't… Stop. Ethan's tone was firm, but not unkind. This isn't your fault. Do you understand me? This is not your fault. Maya nodded, not believing him for a second. Lily's still upstairs? Ethan asked. Yes, you were reading to her. Good. She stays there. He pulled out his own phone, fingers flying over the screen. I'm texting Mrs. Chen. She lives 10 minutes away. She'll come get Lily. Take her to her place for the night. Ethan, you don't have to… Yes, I do. He looked at her, and Maya saw something fierce burning behind his eyes. He wants to talk? Fine. We'll talk. But Lily doesn't need to see whatever the hell this turns into. Maya felt tears burning in her throat. He's not going to just talk. That's not how Ryan works. Then it's a good thing I'm not planning on just talking either. Before Maya could process what that meant, the doorbell rang. They both froze. He's early, Maya whispered, and she hated how small her voice sounded. Ethan checked his watch. By 6 minutes, his mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Typical power play, trying to catch us off guard. It's working. Not for long. Ethan squeezed her shoulder once, then let go. Stay here. Do not come to the door. Understand? Ethan. Maya. He waited until she met his eyes. Trust me. Please. She wanted to tell him he didn't understand, that Ryan was dangerous in ways that money and security systems couldn't fix. But the doorbell rang again, longer this time, more insistent, and Ethan was already walking away. Maya pressed herself against the kitchen counter, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack a rib. She heard the sound of the door opening, heard Ethan's voice, calm and controlled. Can I help you? I'm here for Maya. Ryan's voice drifted into the kitchen, smooth as silk and twice as dangerous. I believe she's staying with you. And you are? Her fiancé. Ex-fiancé, Ethan corrected. From what I understand. A pause. Maya could practically see Ryan's smile, the one he used when he was sizing up an opponent, deciding exactly how to dismantle them. Has she been telling you stories? Ryan asked. She does that, makes things up when she's upset. It's concerning, actually. I've been trying to get her help. Help? Ethan's voice was flat. Is that what you call putting someone in the hospital? Another pause, longer this time. I don't know what she told you, Ryan said, his tone shifting to something that might have passed for concern if you didn't know better. But Maya's not well. She has episodes, gets confused, makes accusations. The doctors think it might be a trauma response from her childhood. Maya's hands clenched into fists. This was his favorite tactic, making everyone think she was unstable, unreliable, broken, beyond repair. That's interesting, Ethan said, because I had a private investigator look into you. Want to know what she found? Silence. 2 previous restraining orders, Ethan continued, his voice still terrifyingly calm. Multiple domestic violence complaints that mysteriously disappeared. And a pattern of gaslighting that would make a psychology textbook. You don't know what you're talking about. The smoothness was gone from Ryan's voice now, replaced by an edge that made Maya's skin crawl. Maya and I have a complicated relationship. Sometimes she needs firm guidance, but that's between us. No, Ethan said. It's between you and a courtroom if you don't get off my property in the next 30 seconds. I'm not leaving without her. Yes, you are. Maya couldn't stand it anymore. Despite Ethan's instructions, despite every instinct screaming at her to stay hidden, she moved toward the front hallway. She had to see, had to know what was happening. She stopped just out of sight, where she could glimpse the door through the gap between the wall and the door frame. Ryan stood on the porch, perfectly composed in an expensive coat and tailored pants. He looked exactly the same, handsome, successful, the kind of man mothers loved and friends envied. No one looking at him would guess what he was capable of. But Maya knew. She saw it in the set of his shoulders, the way his hands flexed at his sides. He was furious. This is kidnapping, Ryan said. You're keeping my fiancée here against her will. I could call the police right now. Go ahead. Ethan pulled out his phone and held it out. I'm sure they'd be very interested in those text messages you sent, the ones that could easily be construed as stalking and harassment. Ryan's eyes narrowed. You're making a mistake. I don't think I am. You don't know her like I do. Ryan leaned forward slightly, and Maya saw Ethan tense. You think you're helping her? You're not. She's broken, damaged. She needs someone who understands that, who can handle her when she falls apart. What she needs, Ethan said quietly, is someone who doesn't use her as a punching bag. Ryan caught himself, smoothed his expression back into something reasonable. Look, I can see you care about her. That's admirable. But you're out of your depth here. Maya and I have history. We have a connection you couldn't possibly understand. The kind of connection that leaves bruises? Those were accidents. She's clumsy. She's not clumsy. Ethan's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. She's terrified. Of you. And I'm not letting you anywhere near her. Ryan's mask finally cracked. Maya saw the fury flash across his face, saw his hands curl into fists. You self-righteous piece of... He took a step forward, and Ethan immediately blocked the doorway with his body. I'd think very carefully about your next move, Ethan said. For a long moment, the 2 men stared at each other. Maya held her breath, waiting for the explosion she knew was coming. Then Ryan smiled. It was the worst thing he could have done. This isn't over, he said softly. You think you can protect her? You can't. I'll be back. And when I am, she'll come with me, because deep down, she knows she belongs to me. Get the hell off my property. Ryan held Ethan's gaze for another second, then stepped back. Tell Maya I'll see her soon. Real soon. He turned and walked back to his car, a sleek black sedan parked at the end of the driveway. Maya watched him go, watched the taillights disappear down the street, and felt no relief. Only a sick certainty that this was far from finished. Ethan closed the door and immediately turned to find her standing in the hallway. I told you to stay in the kitchen, he said, but there was no anger in his voice, just exhaustion. I know. I'm sorry. Maya's voice broke. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I never should have brought this to your door. I should leave, tonight, before he comes back. You're not going anywhere. You don't understand. He meant every word he said. He will come back, and next time I'll be ready. Ethan crossed to her, his hands gentle on her shoulders. Maya, listen to me. You're not alone in this anymore. You don't have to run. We're going to figure this out. How? The word came out as almost a sob. You saw him. He's not going to stop. He never stops. Then we make him stop. Before Maya could respond, Lily's voice floated down from upstairs. Daddy, what's happening? Who was at the door? Ethan closed his eyes briefly, and Maya saw the conflict on his face, the protective father warring with the man who'd just promised to fight her battles. Go, Maya said quietly. She needs you. We're not done talking about this. I know. Ethan headed upstairs, and Maya sank down onto the bottom step, her legs finally giving out. Her hands were still shaking. Her whole body was shaking, actually, tremors running through her like aftershocks. Ryan had found her. Despite everything, despite all of Ethan's precautions and her own careful paranoia, he'd found her. And he'd stood on this porch, in this house, where she'd started to feel safe, and reminded her that safety was an illusion. She heard Ethan's voice upstairs, gentle and reassuring as he talked to Lily. Heard his daughter's, bright questions and his patient answers. This was his life, his world, and Maya was contaminating it with her poison. She should leave, should pack the few things she had and disappear into the night before Ryan made good on his promises, before Ethan got hurt trying to protect her, before Lily saw something no 5-year-old should ever witness. But when she tried to move toward the guest room in the small bag she kept packed out of habit, her body wouldn't cooperate. She just sat there on the stairs, crying silent tears and hating herself for being too weak to do the right thing. Mrs. Chen arrived 20 minutes later, her face creased with concern. Ethan must have explained something because she didn't ask questions, just collected Lily, who protested being taken away before bedtime, but was ultimately coaxed with promises of hot chocolate and staying up past her usual bedtime. After they left, the house felt enormous and empty. Ethan found Maya still sitting on the stairs. He sat down beside her without a word, their shoulders almost touching. "He's right, you know," Maya said into the silence. "I am broken." "No, you're not. I let him hurt me for 3 years. I believed his lies, his promises that he'd change. I let him convince me that I deserved it." She turned to look at Ethan. "That's not normal. That's not what healthy people do." "Abuse isn't about what you let happen," Ethan said quietly. "It's about what he chose to do. Those are very different things." "Is that what your therapist told you, after Sarah?" It was a low blow and Maya regretted it immediately, but Ethan just nodded. "Yeah, actually, among other things." He was quiet for a moment. "After Sarah died, I blamed myself for months. Thought if I'd caught the cancer earlier, found better doctors, tried experimental treatments. Took me a long time to accept that sometimes terrible things happen, and it's not about what we did or didn't do. That's different." "Is it?" Ethan looked at her. "You think Sarah wanted to leave Lily without a mother? You think she chose to get sick? No, she was a victim of her own body turning against her, the same way you were a victim of Ryan's need to control and hurt." Maya wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. "You survived," Ethan continued. "That's what matters. You're still here, still fighting, still trying. That's not broken. That's brave." "I don't feel brave." "Brave people never do. That's kind of the point." They sat in silence for a while, the house settling around them with small creaks and groans. "What do we do now?" Maya finally asked. "Now we make a plan." Ethan stood, offering her his hand. "Come on, coffee and strategy. It's how I built a company. Might as well try it on your ex." Despite everything, Maya felt a small smile tug at her lips. She took his hand and let him pull her up. In the kitchen, Ethan started coffee while Maya sat at the table, watching snow begin to fall outside. It was oddly peaceful, considering the chaos of the evening. "First thing tomorrow," Ethan said as he brought over 2 mugs, "we're upgrading the security. More cameras, better locks, maybe a panic button system." "Ethan, not negotiable." He sat across from her. "Second, we're getting in touch with a lawyer. A real one, someone who specializes in stalking and domestic violence cases. We're going to see what legal options we have." "The restraining order didn't work before," Maya said. "Because you were alone and he knew it. You're not alone anymore." Ethan pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts. "I know people, Maya. People with influence, connections. We're going to use every resource available." "Why?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Why are you doing all this? You barely know me. I've been here less than a month. This isn't your problem to solve." Ethan set down his phone and looked at her for a long moment. "You want the truth?" he asked. "Please." "Because when I look at you, I don't see someone who needs saving. I see someone who's been fighting a war nobody else could see, and you've been doing it completely alone." He paused. "And maybe because Lily looks at you like you hung the moon. Or maybe because I've spent 2 years just going through the motions, and having you here has reminded me what it feels like to actually give a damn about something." Maya's throat tightened. "Or maybe," Ethan continued, his voice softer now. It's because I'm tired of standing on the sidelines. I couldn't save Sarah, but I can help you, if you'll let me. I'm scared, Maya whispered. I know, me too. Of what? Ethan smiled, but it was sad around the edges. Of caring about someone again, of losing them, of not being enough when it counts. He met her eyes. But I'm more scared of doing nothing and watching you disappear because you think you have to handle this alone. Maya felt something shift in her chest, like a door opening that she'd kept locked for years. Okay, she said. Okay? Okay, I'll let you help. I'll stop trying to run. We'll figure it out together. Relief washed over Ethan's face. Thank you. They spent the next hour making lists, researching lawyers, discussing security options. It felt almost normal, like they were planning a business strategy instead of preparing for a potential stalker. But normal was good. Normal meant not drowning in panic. Around midnight, Maya finally admitted she was exhausted. Ethan walked her to the guest room, lingering in the doorway. Try to get some sleep, he said. You too. He nodded but didn't move. Maya? For what it's worth, I'm glad you asked to come home with me that day. Even with everything that's happened, I'm glad. Before Maya could respond, he was gone, footsteps retreating down the hallway. She closed the door and leaned against it, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. This was dangerous. Not just Ryan, though he was definitely dangerous, but this. These feelings creeping in around the edges of her carefully constructed walls. The way Lily's laugh made her chest hurt with something that felt like hope. The way Ethan looked at her sometimes, like she mattered. She couldn't afford feelings. Not now. Maybe not ever. But as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling and listening to the house breathe around her, Maya couldn't help but wonder what it might be like if she could. If she could let herself want this, the warmth, the safety, the family. If she could let herself want him. The thought terrified her more than Ryan ever could. Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in white silence. And somewhere out there, Ryan was planning his next move, waiting for his moment. But inside this house, for just one night, Maya let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to face it alone. She fell asleep thinking about Ethan's words. You're not alone anymore. And for the first time in 3 years, she almost believed it. The next morning arrived too quickly. Maya woke to find sunlight streaming through the window and the smell of bacon drifting up from the kitchen. For a moment, one beautiful, disoriented moment, she forgot where she was and why. Then reality crashed back in. Ryan. The messages, the confrontation. Maya sat up, her body aching with tension she'd carried through the night despite her exhaustion. She checked her phone. No new messages. That should have been reassuring. Instead, it felt like the quiet before a storm. Downstairs, she found Ethan already dressed, cooking breakfast with the kind of focused intensity that suggested he'd barely slept. Morning, he said without looking up. Coffee's fresh. Thanks. Maya poured herself a cup, wrapping her hands around the mug for warmth. Where's Lily? Still at Mrs. Chen's, I thought. He flipped a piece of bacon. I thought maybe she should stay there one more day, just until we get the security upgraded. When did you sleep? I didn't. Ethan finally looked at her, and Maya saw the shadows under his eyes. I was up making calls, pulling strings. The security company's coming at 9, lawyers squeezing us in at 2. Ethan, don't. He held up a hand. Don't tell me I'm doing too much, or that you don't deserve this. We're past that. Maya closed her mouth, swallowing the protest. They ate breakfast in relative silence, both lost in their own thoughts. Maya kept glancing at her phone, waiting for it to buzz with another message from Ryan. The fact that it stayed quiet somehow made everything worse. The security company arrived exactly at 9. 2 men with tablets and serious expressions who spent 3 hours installing cameras, upgrading locks, and setting up a panic button system that would alert both the police and Ethan's phone simultaneously. Military grade, one of them explained to Maya as he showed her how the panic button worked. You press this, and help's coming. Period. Maya nodded, trying not to think about the circumstances under which she might need to use it. By noon, the house looked the same, but felt different. Safer. More fortified. like a castle preparing for siege. This feels excessive, Maya said as she watched Ethan review the camera feeds on his laptop. Good. He didn't look up. Excessive means thorough. Thorough means we don't miss anything. The lawyer's office was downtown, occupying the top floor of a building that screamed money and power. Patricia Morrison turned out to be a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit. She listened to Maya's story without interruption, taking notes on a legal pad. When Maya finished, Patricia set down her pen and looked at both of them. Here's the situation, she said bluntly. The previous restraining order failed because it was handled by a public defender who was overworked and underprepared. Ryan has connections, resources, and a lawyer who clearly knows how to work the system. So what do? Ethan asked. We fight fire with fire. Patricia leaned forward. I have contacts in the DA's office, judges who owe me favors. We file a new restraining order, airtight this time. We document everything, every message, every interaction, every violation. We build a case so solid that Ryan's connections won't matter. And if he violates the restraining order? Maya asked quietly. Patricia's smile was sharp. Then he goes to jail. I'll make sure of it. They spent 2 hours going over details, signing forms, building what Patricia called the foundation of your case. When they finally left, Maya felt simultaneously empowered and exhausted. You okay? Ethan asked as they drove home. I don't know. Maya stared out the window at the city passing by. It feels like we're preparing for war. We are, Ethan said simply, but at least now we have weapons. That night, Lily came home, full of stories about her overnight adventure with Mrs. Chen. She chattered through dinner, oblivious to the tension radiating from both adults. After she was in bed, Ethan and Maya found themselves back in the living room. Thank you, Maya said into the quiet, for everything you did today. The security, the lawyer, all of it. You don't have to keep thanking me. Yes, I do. She turned to face him. Because nobody's ever done something like this for me before. Nobody's ever... She trailed off, struggling for words. What? Ethan prompted gently. Believed me, Maya finished. Everyone else, my friends, my family, they all thought I was exaggerating or being dramatic. Or they'd tell me to just leave like it was that simple. But you... She swallowed hard. You just believed me. Of course I believed you. Ethan looked genuinely confused. Why wouldn't I? And that, Maya realized, was the difference. Ethan lived in a world where his word mattered, where people took him seriously. He couldn't conceive of someone not being believed because it had probably never happened to him. Thank you anyway, she said softly. They stayed up late, talking about nothing and everything. Ethan told her about building his company, about the early days when he'd worked 18-hour shifts and survived on coffee and determination. Maya found herself sharing stories from before Ryan, college adventures, terrible first jobs, dreams she'd abandoned along the way. It felt good, normal, like they were just two people getting to know each other, not two people preparing for a battle. When Maya finally went to bed, she found herself smiling despite everything, found herself thinking that maybe, just maybe, things might actually work out. She should have known better. Hope, Maya had learned, was just another way of setting yourself up for disappointment. And Ryan was very good at disappointment. 3 days passed in tense quiet. The restraining order was filed. The security system hummed along, recording everything, seeing everything. Maya checked the camera feeds obsessively, watching for any sign of Ryan's black sedan, any shadow that didn't belong. Nothing. The silence should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like being stalked by a ghost. Ethan threw himself into work, taking calls in his office, with the door cracked open so he could hear if anything happened. Lily seemed to sense something was wrong despite their best efforts to act normal. She clung to Maya more than usual, asked fewer questions, watched them both with eyes too old for her face. On the 4th day, Maya woke up and decided she was done hiding. She found Ethan in the kitchen, already on his 2nd cup of coffee and his first conference call of the morning. He held up a finger, 1 minute, and she nodded, pouring herself coffee and trying to ignore how domestic this all felt. How right. When he finally hung up, she didn't give him a chance to speak first. I need to get out of this house. Ethan lowered his coffee mug slowly. Maya, I'm going insane, she cut him off. I've been staring at these walls for 4 days, jumping at every sound, watching those camera feeds until my eyes burn. I need air. I need to feel like a person again, not a prisoner. It's not safe. It's never going to be safe, Maya shot back. Not really. Ryan could wait a week, a month, a year. Are we supposed to just sit here forever? Ethan was quiet for a moment, studying her face. What do you want to do? I don't know. Go to the grocery store, take a walk, something normal. She set down her mug harder than necessary. I just need to remember what normal feels like before I forget completely. She could see him weighing options, calculating risks, doing that thing he did where he tried to control every variable. Finally, he sighed. Okay? Maya blinked. Okay? But I'm coming with you, and we're taking my car, not walking, and you keep your phone on you at all times. It wasn't freedom, exactly, but it was close enough. They ended up at the park where they'd first met, though calling it a meeting felt wrong. Collision, maybe. Intersection of two people who shouldn't have crossed paths, but did anyway. The parking lot looked different in January sunlight, less desolate. There were other cars now, families with kids bundled in puffy coats, couples walking dogs, joggers pretending the cold didn't hurt their lungs. You used to come here a lot, Ethan said as they walked along the path. After you left Ryan. Before we met. It wasn't a question, but Maya answered anyway. It was far enough from where he'd look, but close enough to civilization that I felt safe. Relatively safe. She pulled her coat tighter. I'd sit on that bench over there and try to figure out what the hell I was going to do with my life. Did you ever come up with an answer? Survive another day. That was usually as far as my planning got. They walked in silence for a while, their breath forming clouds in the cold air. Maya found herself relaxing despite the circumstances, despite the phone heavy in her pocket, despite knowing that somewhere out there Ryan was planning his next move. Can I ask you something? Ethan said eventually. Depends on what it is. Why didn't you press charges after he put you in the hospital? Maya had been waiting for this question, dreading it, really. Because I was terrified, she said simply. Because pressing charges meant testifying, meant facing him in court, meant trusting a system that had already failed me twice. And because, she paused, because part of me still believed what he'd spent 3 years telling me, that I deserved it, that I'd made him do it, that no one would believe me over him. That's not... I know, Maya interrupted. I know it's not true. Logically, intellectually, I know. But knowing something and believing it are different things. She kicked at a patch of ice on the path. Abuse doesn't just hurt your body. It rewires your brain, makes you doubt everything, especially yourself. Ethan nodded slowly. Sarah used to say something similar about the cancer, how it changed the way she saw herself, made her feel like her body was the enemy. How did she get past that? She didn't, really. She just learned to live with it, to fight anyway, even when she wasn't sure she'd win. He smiled sadly. She was braver than I could ever be. I doubt that. No, it's true. Ethan stopped walking, turning to face her. You want to know what real fear is? It's watching someone you love suffer and not being able to fix it. It's holding her hand while she goes through treatment after treatment, knowing that all your money, all your connections, all your power means absolutely nothing. I would have traded places with her in a heartbeat. I would have given everything, but I couldn't. All I could do was watch. Maya saw the grief written across his face and felt her throat tighten. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. He started walking again, slower now. I'm telling you because I understand feeling helpless, and I understand why you didn't press charges. Fear isn't rational. It just is. They completed another lap around the park in comfortable silence. A kid shrieked with laughter near the playground, chasing a dog that was definitely too big for him to control. His mother called out something stern but amused. It was so normal it hurt. Thank you, Maya said quietly, for bringing me here, for understanding. You don't have to thank me for basic human decency. Maybe not, but I'm going to anyway. When they got back to the car, Ethan paused before starting the engine. Maya, I need to tell you something. The serious tone made her stomach drop. What? Lily asked me this morning when you're going to be her new mommy. Oh. She's 5, Maya said quickly. She doesn't understand. I know. I told her that, but Ethan drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. The thing is, I don't think she's entirely wrong to wonder. Maya's heart stopped. What? About you staying. Long term, I mean. He wasn't looking at her, which somehow made it worse. We haven't really talked about what happens after. After the restraining order, after Ryan backs off, if he backs off. What your plans are. I don't have plans, Maya admitted. I've been taking it day by day, remember? Right. Ethan finally met her eyes. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could just stay? Ethan, not because you need to, he continued quickly. Not because you're hiding or afraid, but because you want to. Because this, he gestured vaguely between them. Because this works. You, me, Lily, it works. Maya felt like she couldn't breathe. You're offering me what exactly? I don't know. And he looked so genuinely confused that Maya almost laughed. I haven't thought it through. I just know that I don't want you to leave. Lily doesn't want you to leave. And I hope, maybe you don't want to leave either. He was right. She didn't want to leave. That was the problem. I'm a mess, Maya said instead of answering. I have an ex who's stalking me. No job, no money, no life outside of hiding. What exactly do I bring to this arrangement? You bring yourself. That's enough. Is it? Maya shook her head. You're a billionaire, Ethan. You could have anyone. Someone whole, someone stable, someone who doesn't come with a restraining order and a side of trauma. I don't want anyone. His voice was quiet but firm. I want you. The words hung in the air between them, impossible to take back. Maya opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. Ethan started the car. I'm not going anywhere. The drive home was quiet, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Maya stared out the window, watching the city blur past, and tried to process what had just happened. Ethan wanted her to stay. Not just for safety, not just as a temporary solution. He wanted her. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing the fall might kill her, but wondering if maybe, just maybe, she could fly. When they pulled into the driveway, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then showed Maya the screen. It was from Patricia Morrison, the lawyer. Restraining order approved. Ryan served this morning. He's officially barred from contacting you or coming within 500 feet. Violation means immediate arrest. Maya read it twice, then a third time, trying to make the words feel real. It's done, she whispered. It's done, Ethan confirmed. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, Maya felt something loosen in her chest. Not relief, exactly. More like the first breath after being underwater too long. They celebrated that night with pizza and a movie that Lily picked out. Something animated with talking animals and too many musical numbers. Lily sat between them on the couch, her head on Maya's shoulder, her feet in Ethan's lap, completely content. Halfway through the movie, she fell asleep. Should we move her? Maya whispered. In a minute. Ethan adjusted the blanket over his daughter. She's comfortable. They watched the rest of the movie in near silence, neither wanting to disturb Lily. When the credits rolled, Ethan carefully lifted her. She barely stirred, and carried her upstairs. Maya was washing the dishes when he came back down. Let me help, he said, grabbing a towel. They worked side by side, falling into an easy rhythm. Ethan washed, Maya dried. It was domestic and simple and somehow more intimate than any grand gesture could have been. I've been thinking, Maya said as she put away the last plate, about what you said earlier. Ethan went very still. Yeah? I want to stay. The words came out rushed, like she was afraid she'd lose her nerve if she slowed down. Not because I'm scared or because I have nowhere else to go, but because you're right. This works, and I don't want to run from something good just because I'm afraid of getting hurt. Ethan turned to face her fully, and Maya saw something bright and vulnerable in his expression. You're sure? He asked. No, Maya admitted. I'm terrified, but I'm also tired of letting fear make all my decisions. Ethan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his hand. His thumb brushed her cheek gently. I'm scared too, he said softly. Of this, of us, of what it means. But I think you're worth being scared for. Maya leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. What if I mess this up? Then we'll figure it out together. What if Ryan? Then we'll handle it together. What if... Ethan kissed her. It was gentle, careful, asking rather than demanding. Maya froze for half a second, then kissed him back, her hands coming up to rest on his chest. She could feel his heartbeat under her palm, quick and nervous, matching her own. When they finally pulled apart, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. Was that okay? He asked, slightly breathless. Maya laughed, surprising herself. Yeah, that was very okay. They stood like that for a long moment, neither quite willing to let go, both processing what had just shifted between them. We should probably talk about this, Ethan said eventually. Set expectations, figure out what this means. Tomorrow, Maya interrupted. Let's just let this be enough for tonight. Tomorrow, Ethan agreed. They didn't kiss again. Not that night. But when Maya went to bed, she couldn't stop smiling. She felt lighter than she had in years, like some weight she'd been carrying had finally been set down. She should have known the universe doesn't let happy moments last. The next week passed in a blur of careful happiness. Maya and Ethan didn't rush anything. There were no grand declarations or dramatic changes. Just small moments of connection. Hands brushing as they passed in the hallway. Lingering looks across the dinner table. Conversations that stretched late into the night. Lily noticed, of course. 5-year-olds noticed everything. Are you and Daddy dating? She asked Maya one afternoon while they were coloring at the kitchen table. Maya nearly choked on her water. What makes you ask that? Because he smiles at you the way he used to smile at Mommy in pictures. Lily didn't look up from her drawing. And you smile back, that's dating. It's complicated, Maya said, which was the truth, if not the whole truth. Grown-ups always say that when they don't want to explain. Lily switched to a purple crayon. But it's okay. I like it when Daddy's happy, and I like you. I like you too, sweetheart. Good, Lily beamed at her, because if you're going to be my new mommy, we should probably like each other. Maya wanted to correct her, to explain that it didn't work like that, but Lily had already moved on to a new topic, something about a boy at school who could burp the alphabet. That night, Maya told Ethan about the conversation. She's getting attached, Maya said, worried. What if this doesn't work out? What if it does? Ethan countered. What if we stop waiting for disaster and just let ourselves have this? Since when are you the optimist? Since I met someone who makes me want to try. They were in the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch like teenagers afraid of their own attraction. It would have been funny if it wasn't so sweet. Come here, Ethan said softly. Maya hesitated for only a second before sliding across the cushions to curl into his side. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, and she rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. This is nice, she murmured. Yeah, it is. They stayed like that for a long time, not talking, just existing together. Maya felt herself relaxing completely for the first time since before Ryan. Maybe longer. She was nearly asleep when her phone buzzed. She ignored it at first, too comfortable to move, but it buzzed again and again. Ethan felt her tense. What is it? Maya reluctantly pulled out her phone and immediately wished she hadn't. 3 messages from an unknown number. Restraining order won't keep me away. You can hide behind your billionaire boyfriend all you want, but eventually you'll have to face me. And when you do, I'll make sure you remember who you belong to. The warmth drained from Maya's body, replaced by ice-cold fear. Maya? Ethan sat up, seeing her face. What's wrong? She handed him the phone without a word. She watched his expression harden as he read, watched him go from relaxed to furious in the space of seconds. Son of a bitch, he muttered, already reaching for his own phone. He just violated the restraining order. Patricia can have him arrested for this. It's from an unknown number, Maya said dully. We can't prove it's him. The hell we can't. Ethan was already dialing. The phone company can trace it, and even if they can't, the language is specific enough. He's referencing the restraining order, referencing me. Who else would it be? Maya wanted to share his confidence, But all she could think was that Ryan had promised this, had warned them he wouldn't stop. And now he was proving it. Patricia answered on the second ring. Ethan put her on speaker and explained the situation. Maya listened numbly as they discussed legal options, evidence gathering, next steps. "I can file a motion first thing tomorrow," Patricia said. "Get the phone company to pull records, push for his arrest. But Maya, you need to document everything. Screenshot those messages, note the time, write down how they made you feel." "Scared," Maya said. "They made me feel scared." "That's a start." Patricia's voice was kind but firm. "Listen to me. He's testing boundaries, seeing if he can still get to you. Don't give him the satisfaction of a response." After they hung up, Ethan pulled Maya back into his arms. "We're going to handle this," he said into her hair. "He's not going to win." "He's already winning," Maya whispered. "He took away my peace, made me afraid again. That's all he wanted." "Then we take it back." "How?" Ethan was quiet for a moment. "By not letting him control us, by living our lives despite him, by being happy even though he wants us miserable." It sounded good. Maya wanted to believe it. But as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling and listening to every creak of the house settling, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Ryan wasn't done, not even close. And the worst part? She had no idea what he'd do next. The next 2 weeks were a strange mix of terror and normalcy. Ryan sent 2 more messages, both from different unknown numbers, both carefully worded to be threatening without crossing into obviously illegal territory. Patricia filed motions, pushed the police, made demands. Nothing happened. Ryan was too smart, too careful. He knew exactly how far he could push without consequences. Meanwhile, life continued. Lily had her school play. She made an excellent tree, barely moving and delivering her one line with perfect seriousness. Ethan closed a major business deal. Maya started looking into online courses, thinking about finishing the degree she'd abandoned when Ryan had convinced her she didn't need education. They went on their first official date, dinner at a restaurant downtown, where Ethan held her hand across the table and Maya forgot to be afraid for 2 whole hours. They kissed goodnight in the hallway outside her room, and this time it was less gentle, more desperate. Ethan's hands in her hair, Maya's fingers clutching his shirt, both of them drowning in want and fear and hope. "Stay with me," Maya whispered against his lips. "Tonight. Just to sleep. I don't want to be alone." Ethan pulled back enough to search her face. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." They fell asleep tangled together in Maya's bed, fully clothed, holding each other like lifelines. Maya woke up twice during the night from nightmares about Ryan, and both times Ethan was there, whispering reassurances, keeping the dark at bay. In the morning, they found Lily standing in the doorway, her stuffed elephant clutched to her chest. "Are you my new mommy now?" she asked Maya seriously. Maya looked at Ethan, who looked back at her, both of them at a loss. "I'm working on it," Maya finally said. Lily nodded, satisfied, and climbed into bed between them, clearly planning to stay. It was perfect and terrifying, and everything Maya had never let herself want. She should have known it couldn't last. 3 days later, on a Saturday afternoon, everything fell apart. They were at the park again, Maya's request. She refused to let Ryan take away the places that made her feel human. Lily was on the swings, Ethan pushing her higher and higher while she shrieked with delight. Maya sat on a nearby bench, watching them and thinking about how much her life had changed in 2 months. How she'd gone from sleeping in shelters to having something that looked dangerously close to a family. She didn't notice the man approaching until he was already sitting beside her. "Hello, Maya." "Ryan." Maya's heart stopped. She looked around frantically for Ethan, but he had his back turned, focused on Lily. "You're violating the restraining order," she said, hating how shaky her voice sounded. "Am I?" Ryan smiled, and it was the smile she remembered from their early days, charming, disarming. "I'm just a guy sitting in a public park. It's not my fault you happen to be here, too. That's not how it works, isn't it?" He leaned back, perfectly casual. "See, my lawyer explained something interesting. The restraining order says I can't contact you or come to your home. But it doesn't say I can't exist in public spaces, as long as I maintain the required distance and don't initiate contact." He shrugged. "What can they do?" Maya felt sick. You initiated contact. You're talking to me right now. You approached me, Ryan said smoothly. I was just sitting here when you sat down. I said hello to be polite. That's what witnesses will say if anyone asks. There were no witnesses. The nearest person was 50 feet away, too far to hear their conversation. What do you want? Maya asked. What I've always wanted. You. Ryan turned to look at her fully. This thing you're doing, playing house with your billionaire boyfriend, it's not real, Maya. You know that, right? He doesn't actually care about you. He's just another rich guy looking for a project, someone broken enough to make him feel good about himself. That's not true. Isn't it? Ryan's voice was soft, almost kind. Come on, be honest. What does a man like that want with someone like you? You're damaged goods, Maya. Used up. I'm the only one who knows the real you and wants you anyway. Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes. These were the words that had kept her trapped for 3 years, the ones she'd almost started to believe. Get away from me, she said. Or what? You'll tell your boyfriend? He'll call the police? Ryan laughed quietly. They won't do anything. They never do. You know why? Because I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just a concerned ex-fiancé worried about the woman he loves. You don't love me. You never did. That's where you're wrong. And for just a second, Maya saw something genuine flicker across Ryan's face. I do love you. That's why I can't let you go. That's why I'll never stop fighting for us. There is no us. There's always been an us. You and me, Maya. We're inevitable. Ryan stood, brushing off his pants. You can run to him all you want, but eventually you'll remember. You're mine. You've always been mine. He walked away before Maya could respond, disappearing into the park like he'd never been there at all. Maya sat frozen, her whole body shaking. She wanted to call out to Ethan, wanted to run after Ryan and scream at him, wanted to curl into a ball and cry. Instead, she just sat there, watching Ryan's back retreating, and felt everything she'd built over the past 2 months crack right down the middle. Because he was right about one thing. He would never stop. And Maya wasn't sure how long she could keep running. Maya didn't tell Ethan about the encounter at the park. She knew she should, knew that keeping secrets was exactly the kind of thing that destroyed relationships. But every time she opened her mouth to say the words, Ryan's voice echoed in her head. He's just another rich guy looking for a project. You're damaged goods. I'm the only one who knows the real you and wants you anyway. So she swallowed the truth and smiled when Ethan asked if she was okay, nodded when he suggested they grab ice cream on the way home, laughed at Lily's jokes even though everything felt hollow. That night, after Lily was asleep and Ethan had kissed her goodnight, soft and sweet and full of promise, Maya lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering when the other shoe would drop. It took 3 days. She was making lunch when her phone rang. Unknown number. Maya's hand started shaking before she even answered. Hello? Miss Reed? A woman's voice, professional and clipped. This is Detective Sarah Chen with the City Police Department. I need to ask you some questions about Ryan Walker. Maya's stomach dropped. What about him? He's filed a complaint. Says you've been harassing him, making false accusations, using your relationship with Ethan Cross to intimidate him. A pause. He's requesting that we investigate the restraining order, claims it was obtained under false pretenses. The world tilted sideways. That's insane, Maya breathed. He's the one who's been harassing me. He approached me at the park 3 days ago. Do you have witnesses to that encounter? No, but Ms. Reed, I'm going to be straight with you. Mr. Walker has an impressive legal team. They've provided documentation suggesting a pattern of unstable behavior on your part. Text messages you allegedly sent, emails, witness statements from people who say you've made threats. I never sent any messages. I haven't contacted him at all. That's the whole point of the restraining order. Nevertheless, I need you to come down to the station. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. We need to take your statement. Sort this out properly. The detective hung up before Maya could respond. Maya stood in the kitchen, phone clutched in her shaking hand, and felt the walls closing in. Ryan wasn't just fighting back. He was going on offense, twisting reality until she looked like the aggressor, the unstable one, the threat. She should have known he'd do this, should have expected it. The phone slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the counter. Maya? She turned to find Ethan standing in the doorway, concern etched across his face. "I heard the phone ring," he said. "Everything okay?" And Maya did something she'd sworn she wouldn't do. She lied. "Wrong number," she said, forcing a smile. "Telemarketer." Ethan studied her for a moment too long, and Maya was certain he could see right through her. But then he just nodded and asked what she wanted for lunch, and the moment passed. Maya spent the rest of the day in a fog of anxiety. She kept her phone on silent, couldn't eat, jumped at every sound. When Lily asked if she wanted to play dolls, Maya agreed but couldn't focus. Kept losing track of the imaginary storyline Lily was weaving. "You're being weird," Lily finally announced, hands on her hips. "Sorry, sweetheart. I'm just tired." "Grown-ups are always tired," Lily sighed dramatically. "It's boring." Despite everything, Maya smiled. "You're absolutely right." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, her mind racing through scenarios. What if the police believed Ryan? What if they dropped the restraining order? What if they charged her with something, filing a false report, harassment, whatever Ryan's lawyers had convinced them of? Around 2 in the morning, she gave up and went downstairs. The house was dark and quiet, everyone asleep except her. She stood in the kitchen, staring out the window at the snow-covered backyard, and tried to figure out how her life had spiraled so far out of control. "Can't sleep?" Maya jumped, spinning to find Ethan in the doorway, hair mussed from sleep, wearing an old t-shirt and sweatpants. "You scared me," she said, hand pressed to her racing heart. "Sorry." He moved into the kitchen, flipping on the small light over the stove, enough to see by but not harsh. "You okay?" "Fine, just restless." Ethan studied her in the dim light, and Maya knew she was a terrible liar, knew he could see right through her careful facade. "Maya," he said softly, "what's going on?" "Nothing, I just—" "Don't." He crossed to her, gently taking her shoulders. "Don't shut me out. Whatever it is, we handle it together, remember?" Maya felt her carefully constructed walls crumbling. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of losing this. Of losing you and Lily. Of Ryan winning." The words tumbled out in a rush. "Of being the mess that ruins everything good that's ever happened to me." "Hey!" Ethan pulled her into his arms, and Maya let herself collapse against his chest. "You're not a mess, and you're not going to lose us." "You don't know that." "I do, actually." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Because I'm not going anywhere, no matter what happens. You're stuck with me." Maya wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it hurt. "There's something I need to tell you," she whispered into his chest. She felt him tense slightly. "Okay." "Ryan approached me. At the park. 3 days ago. While you were with Lily on the swings." The confession felt like bleeding out. "He sat next to me, said the restraining order didn't apply to public spaces, told me I was his, and always would be." Ethan went very still. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was scared you'd think he was right, that I'm too much trouble, too broken, that this whole thing was a mistake." Maya pulled back to look at him. "And because today the police called. Ryan filed a complaint saying I've been harassing him. They want me to come in for questioning tomorrow." She watched Ethan process this, saw his jaw tighten, his hands curl into fists. "That son of a bitch," he muttered. Then louder, "We're calling Patricia, first thing in the morning, and I'm coming with you to the police station." "Ethan?" "Non-negotiable." His eyes were hard. "If Ryan wants to play games, fine, but he's going to learn what happens when he goes up against someone who actually has resources. This isn't your fight." "The hell it isn't." Ethan cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You're mine now. That makes it my fight. And I don't lose fights, Maya. Not the ones that matter." Maya felt tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not," Ethan said, but he was smiling. "But you're stuck with me anyway." He kissed her then, hard and desperate, and Maya kissed him back with everything she had. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "Come to bed," Ethan said. "My bed. I don't want you alone tonight." Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. They climbed the stairs together, hands intertwined. In Ethan's room, a space Maya had never entered before, They crawled under the covers, fully clothed, and held each other in the darkness. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner," Maya whispered. "I'm sorry you felt like you couldn't." Ethan's arms tightened around her. "From now on, no more secrets. Deal?" "Deal." Maya fell asleep listening to Ethan's heartbeat, feeling safer than she had in days despite knowing that tomorrow would bring new battles. She woke to find weak winter sunlight filtering through the curtains and Lily standing beside the bed, staring at them with wide eyes. "Are you having a sleepover?" Lily asked. Ethan groaned, clearly not awake enough for this conversation. "Something like that, Bug." "Can I have a sleepover too?" Before either adult could respond, Lily had climbed onto the bed and wedged herself between them, her stuffed elephant clutched to her chest. "There," she announced, satisfied. "Now it's a real family sleepover." Maya met Ethan's eyes over Lily's head, saw him trying not to laugh. Despite everything, despite Ryan and the police and the terror of what the day might bring, Maya found herself smiling. This was worth fighting for. They had breakfast as a family, pancakes that Lily insisted on helping make, which meant more batter on the counter than in the pan. Ethan called Patricia, explained the situation, and Maya listened to him speak with the kind of authority that came from never having to doubt himself. She envied that confidence. Patricia arrived at the house 30 minutes before they needed to leave for the police station. She was all business, her briefcase full of documents, her expression sharp. "They're bluffing," she said after reviewing everything. "Ryan's trying to muddy the waters, make you look unstable so the restraining order gets dropped. But we have documentation, medical records from when he put you in the hospital, statements from the shelter workers, the text messages he sent after the restraining order was filed." "What if they don't believe me?" Maya asked. "Then we make them believe you." Patricia's smile was fierce. "Trust me, I've dealt with cases like this before. Ryan Walker might have connections, but I have evidence. And evidence wins." The police station was exactly as depressing as Maya expected. Fluorescent lights, beige walls, the smell of burnt coffee, and resignation. Detective Chen turned out to be a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a wedding ring she kept twisting on her finger. She led them to an interview room and gestured for Maya to sit. Ethan tried to follow, but the detective shook her head. "Just Ms. Reed for now." "I'm her lawyer," Patricia said smoothly. "I stay with my client." Detective Chen considered this, then nodded. "Fine. But you," she pointed at Ethan, "wait outside." Ethan looked like he wanted to argue, but Maya touched his hand. "It's okay. I'll be right outside," he promised. The interview was grueling. Detective Chen went through every detail of Maya's relationship with Ryan, questioned every inconsistency, probed every gap in her story. She showed Maya printouts of text messages allegedly sent from Maya's number, messages threatening Ryan, begging him to take her back, accusing him of things. "I never sent these," Maya said, her voice shaking. "My phone was stolen 6 months ago. He must have cloned it somehow, or—" "That's a very convenient explanation," Detective Chen said. "It's the truth." Patricia leaned forward. "Detective, my client reported that phone stolen. There's a police report filed in August. I have a copy right here." She slid a document across the table. "And if you check the metadata on those text messages, I'm willing to bet they were sent from a device other than Ms. Reed's current phone." Detective Chen frowned, studying the document. "Furthermore," Patricia continued, "we have documented evidence of Mr. Walker's pattern of abuse, hospital records, restraining orders from previous partners, witness statements. This complaint is clearly retaliation for Ms. Reed finally standing up to him." The detective was quiet for a long moment. Then she closed her folder. "I'm going to be honest with you, Ms. Reed. This is messy. Both sides have compelling evidence. Both sides are making serious accusations. It's going to take time to sort through everything." "What does that mean for the restraining order?" Patricia asked. "It stays in place, for now." Detective Chen stood. "But I'm going to recommend that both parties maintain distance and cease all contact. Any further incidents from either side will be taken very seriously." It wasn't a win, exactly, but it wasn't a loss either. Outside the interview room, Ethan was pacing like a caged animal. The moment he saw Maya, he crossed to her, searching her face. "How bad?" he asked. "Could have been worse," Patricia answered. "The restraining order stands. They're investigating both claims. It'll take time, but we're in a good position." Time. Ethan's jaw clenched. How much time? Weeks, maybe months. These things move slowly. Maya felt exhaustion wash over her. Weeks or months of this limbo, this constant fear, this waiting for the other shoe to drop. In the car on the way home, she stared out the window and tried to imagine a future where this was over, where Ryan was just a bad memory, where she could breathe without fear tightening her chest. She couldn't quite picture it. "You're quiet," Ethan said. "Just tired." "Maya." He reached over, took her hand. "Talk to me." "I don't know what to say." She turned to look at him. "I keep thinking about what Ryan said, about me being damaged, about you just wanting a project to fix." Ethan pulled the car over abruptly, putting it in park. They were on a quiet residential street, snow piled high along the curbs. "Look at me," he demanded. Maya did. "I don't want to fix you. You're not broken. You're surviving something that would have destroyed most people." His voice was intense, fierce. "And I don't give a damn what Ryan said. He doesn't get to define you. He doesn't get to tell you who you are or what you're worth." "But what if he's right? What if I'm too much work, too much baggage? Then I'll carry it." Ethan leaned closer. "All of it, however long it takes. Because you're worth it, Maya. You're worth everything." Maya felt tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how to believe that." "Then I'll believe it for both of us until you can." He kissed her, soft and gentle, and Maya tasted salt from her own tears. When they got home, Mrs. Chen had Lily in the living room, reading stories. Lily immediately abandoned the book to launch herself at Maya. "You were gone forever," she complained. "Sorry, sweetheart. We had some boring grown-up stuff to do." "Did you bring me a present?" Maya laughed despite herself. "No presents, just me." "That's okay." Lily grabbed her hand. "Come see the picture I drew. It's us, you, me, and Daddy. We're a family." Maya's throat tightened. She let Lily drag her to the coffee table, where a crayon drawing showed 3 stick figures holding hands. One tall, one medium, one small. Lily had even drawn a house behind them with a dog in the yard. "We don't have a dog," Maya said. "Not yet." Lily said it like it was obvious they would eventually. "But when we do, I want to name him Pancake." "Pancake?" "Because I like pancakes." The logic was flawless. That evening, after Lily was in bed, Maya and Ethan sat together on the couch. Ethan had a laptop balanced on his knees, supposedly working, but Maya noticed he kept glancing at her. "What?" she finally asked. "I've been thinking," he said slowly, "about what happens next." Maya's stomach clenched. "What do you mean?" "I mean long term, after this thing with Ryan is resolved." Ethan closed the laptop, set it aside. "I know we've been taking things slow and I respect that, but I need you to know something." "Okay. This isn't temporary for me." He turned to face her fully. "You, me, Lily, this feels right. It feels like family, and I want that. Not just until Ryan gives up or the legal stuff is settled. I want it permanently." Maya's heart was pounding. "Ethan, you don't have to answer now," he said quickly. "I'm not proposing or anything. Not yet, anyway. I just needed you to know where I stand, where my head's at." "Where your head's at," Maya repeated slowly, "is wanting me to be a permanent part of your life." "Yes." "Even though I come with an abusive ex and legal problems and enough emotional baggage to fill a warehouse." "Especially because of that," Ethan said, "because it means you're strong enough to survive hell and still try to build something good on the other side." Maya didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to run, old habits dying hard. Part of her wanted to throw herself into his arms and never let go. She settled for honesty. "I want that too," she whispered. "It terrifies me, but I want it." Ethan's smile was brilliant. "Yeah?" "Yeah." Maya moved closer until she was curled against his side. "I want to be Lily's mom. I want to wake up next to you. I want to stop running and start living." "Then let's do it." He kissed the top of her head. "Let's build something real." They sat like that for a long time, not talking, just being together. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Maya let herself hope. Let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, happy endings were real. She should have known better. 2 weeks passed in relative peace. No messages from Ryan, no police follow-ups, no crises. Just normal life. Lily's dance recital, movie nights, Ethan teaching Maya to cook his mother's lasagna recipe. They fell into routines, built small traditions, started talking about the future in concrete terms. Maya even started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who specialized in trauma and abuse. It was hard, unpacking years of damage, but Maya forced herself to show up week after week. "You're making progress," Dr. Mitchell said at the end of their fourth session. "You're learning to separate Ryan's voice from your own thoughts. That's huge." Maya wanted to believe her. Everything was starting to feel stable, normal, good, which was exactly when Ryan made his move. It was a Saturday in late February. Ethan had taken Lily to her friend's birthday party, leaving Maya alone at the house for a few hours. She'd been looking forward to the quiet, planning to take a long bath and maybe read the book she'd been neglecting. She was in the kitchen making tea when the doorbell rang. Maya froze. The security camera showed a delivery driver on the porch, holding a large box. She relaxed slightly. Just a delivery. Nothing sinister. She opened the door, keeping the chain on. "Package for Maya Reed," the driver said, checking his tablet. "I didn't order anything." The driver shrugged. "Someone did. Need you to sign." Maya signed, took the box, surprisingly heavy, and brought it inside. There was no return address, no indication of who'd sent it. She should have been suspicious, should have waited for Ethan to come home. Instead, she opened it. Inside was a photo album, the kind with plastic sleeves, each page protected. Maya's hand started shaking before she even opened the cover. The first page showed a photo of her and Ryan from 4 years ago. They were at a restaurant, Maya's head thrown back in laughter, Ryan's arm around her shoulders. She barely recognized the woman in the photo. She looked so happy, so carefree. Someone had drawn a red X over Ryan's face. Maya turned the page with trembling fingers. More photos. Her and Ryan at the beach, at a wedding, on vacation. Each one defaced in some way, scratches across Ryan's face, angry red marks, violent scribbles. And underneath each photo, in neat handwriting, "You are mine. You'll always be mine. No one else can have you." The album continued like that, page after page of their relationship documented and violated. But it was the last page that made Maya's blood run cold. A photo of her from last week, walking out of Dr. Mitchell's office. She was bundled in her winter coat, head down against the wind, completely unaware she was being photographed. And underneath, in that same careful handwriting, "I'm always watching. You can't hide from me. Not even with him." Maya dropped the album like it was burning her. It hit the floor, pages splaying open, all those defaced memories staring up at her. He'd been following her, taking photos, documenting her movements. The restraining order meant nothing. The police investigation meant nothing. Ryan was still out there, still watching, still waiting, and there wasn't a damn thing anyone could do to stop him. Maya sank to the floor beside the scattered photos, her whole body shaking. She should call Ethan, should call the police, should do something. Instead, she just sat there, staring at evidence of her own haunting, and wondered how much longer she could keep fighting. The sound of the garage door opening jerked her back to reality. Ethan and Lily, home from the party. Maya scrambled to gather the photos, shoving them back into the box. She didn't want Lily to see this, didn't want to poison the afternoon with Ryan's sickness, but her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't get everything back in the box before the door from the garage opened. "Maya?" Lily's voice rang out. "We got cake and I saved you a piece," and she stopped, seeing Maya on the floor surrounded by photos. Ethan appeared behind her, his expression shifting from happy to concerned to furious in rapid succession as he took in the scene. "Lily," he said, his voice carefully controlled, "go upstairs to your room for a minute, okay? But now, please." Something in his tone made Lily obey without further argument. They heard her footsteps on the stairs, the sound of her door closing. Ethan crossed to Maya, kneeling beside her. "What is this?" he asked, though his voice suggested he already knew. Maya handed him the album without a word. She watched his face as he flipped through it, saw the muscle in his jaw ticking, his hands gripping the pages hard enough to crease them. When he got to the last photo, the one of Maya leaving therapy, he went very, very still. "I'm calling the police," he said quietly. "It won't matter." Maya's voice sounded hollow even to her own ears. "He's smart. He'll say he sent it before the restraining order." or that someone else sent it, or that it's not threatening, just sentimental. He always has an excuse. I don't care. Ethan pulled out his phone. He's not getting away with this. But even as he dialed, Maya knew. She knew with a certainty that made her bones ache. Ryan would never stop. Not until he got what he wanted, or until one of them was dead. The police came and took statements. They cataloged the photos, documented everything, promised to follow up. Detective Chen looked genuinely sympathetic this time, but Maya could see the frustration in her eyes. They both knew how this would play out. Ryan would claim he sent the package before the restraining order was officially served. Or he'd say someone else sent it on his behalf without his knowledge. Or he'd twist it into something sentimental rather than threatening. He had money for lawyers who could dance circles around truth until it looked like fiction. After the police left, Ethan stood in the kitchen, his hands braced on the counter, breathing like he'd just run a marathon. I want to kill him, he said quietly. I actually want to find him. And don't! Maya's voice was sharper than she intended. That's exactly what he wants. To make you lose control, make you do something stupid so he can play the victim. Ethan turned to face her. So what do we do? Just wait for his next move? I don't know. Maya wrapped her arms around herself. Maybe I should just leave. Disappear somewhere he can't find me. Absolutely not. Ethan, no. He crossed to her, gripping her shoulders. We are not letting him win. We are not letting him drive you away from the life you're building here. What life? Maya's voice cracked. I can't even go to therapy without him following me. I can't go to the park without looking over my shoulder. This isn't living, it's surviving, and I'm so tired of just surviving. Upstairs, they could hear Lily moving around in her room, the soft sound of her talking to her stuffed animals, creating imaginary worlds where things made sense. I have an idea, Ethan said slowly. It's risky, maybe illegal, definitely not what Patricia would advise, but it might work. Maya looked at him. What kind of idea? The kind where we stop playing defense and start playing offense. He explained his plan. Maya listened, her heart pounding, torn between hope and terror. What Ethan was suggesting could end this, or it could make everything so much worse. That's insane, she said when he finished. Probably. It could backfire completely. It could, Ethan agreed, but doing nothing guarantees he wins. At least this way we're fighting back. Maya thought about the photo album, about Ryan's handwriting promising that she'd always be his, thought about living the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, waiting for him to appear, to take, to destroy. Okay, she said. Let's do it. The plan required preparation. Ethan made calls to people he knew, security experts, private investigators, tech specialists who operated in moral gray areas. Money, Maya was learning, could buy almost anything, including the kind of help that didn't ask too many questions. 3 days later, everything was in place. Maya sent Ryan a text from a burner phone. Simple, direct, playing into exactly what he wanted to hear. You're right. I can't keep running. We need to talk. Just us. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the park where we first met. She didn't have to wait long for a response. I knew you'd come back to me. See you tomorrow, my love. Maya's hands shook as she read it, but she forced herself to type back. Come alone. No lawyers, no games, just us. Of course. I've always just wanted us. That night, Maya barely slept. She lay in Ethan's bed, their bed now, really, and stared at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario. Ethan held her close, neither of them speaking, both knowing that tomorrow would change everything. I'm scared, Maya whispered into the darkness. Me too. Ethan's arms tightened around her. But we're doing this together. You're not alone. What if it doesn't work? Then we try something else, and if that doesn't work, we try again, however many times it takes. He kissed her forehead. I'm not giving up on you, Maya. Not ever. Maya turned to face him, searching his eyes in the dim light filtering through the curtains. Why? Why what? Why do you care so much? You could have just let me go that day in the parking lot. Your life would be so much simpler. Ethan was quiet for a moment. You know what Sarah told me right before she died? Maya shook her head. She said life isn't about avoiding pain. It's about choosing who and what you're willing to hurt for. His voice was rough with emotion. I choose you, Maya. Every time. Even knowing everything. Especially knowing everything. Maya kissed him then, desperate and grateful and terrified, pouring everything she couldn't say into that contact. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "We're going to end this tomorrow," he said. "One way or another." "One way or another," Maya echoed. Morning came too fast. Maya went through the motions of breakfast, of playing with Lily, of pretending this was just another day. Mrs. Chen arrived to watch Lily, asked no questions about why both adults were so tense. Lily hugged Maya extra tight before they left. "Come back soon," she said into Maya's shoulder. "I will, sweetheart. I promise." The park was quiet when they arrived at 1:30. Ethan had rented a surveillance van, unmarked, professional-grade equipment inside. Two of his security people were already there, dressed like joggers, strategically positioned around the park. Another was in a car nearby, ready to call the police if things went wrong. Maya wore a wire, tiny, nearly invisible, but powerful enough to record everything clearly. "Remember," Ethan said as they did final checks, "you just need to get him talking. Get him to admit to the stalking, the photos, violating the restraining order. The more specific, the better. And if he gets violent," Ethan's jaw tightened, "then I'm about 20 feet away, and I will not hesitate." "Ethan, you promised—" "I promised not to start anything," he corrected. "I made no promises about finishing it." At 1:55, Maya walked to the bench where she'd sat that first day, the same bench where Ryan had approached her weeks ago. Her whole body felt like a live wire, vibrating with tension. At exactly 2 p.m., Ryan appeared. He looked good. He always looked good. Expensive coat, tailored pants, hair perfectly styled. Nothing about his exterior suggested the monster underneath. "Maya." His smile was warm, genuine seeming. "I'm so glad you came to your senses." "Don't." Maya held up a hand. "Don't pretend this is a reunion. We need to talk, that's all." Ryan sat beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. The scent triggered 1,000 memories, most of them bad. "Of course," he said smoothly. "What did you want to discuss?" "You need to stop," Maya said, keeping her voice level. "The messages, the photos, following me, all of it needs to stop." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." Maya forced herself to look at him. "The package you sent, the photo album." "I sent you a gift," Ryan said. "Pictures from happier times. Is that a crime?" "It is when there's a restraining order." "Is there?" Ryan's smile didn't waver. "I must have sent those before it was officially served. Can't be held responsible for mail delays." There it was. Exactly the excuse Maya had predicted. "What about following me?" she pressed. "Taking pictures of me outside my therapist's office?" "I happen to be in the neighborhood. It's a public street. Am I not allowed to exist in the same city as you?" He leaned closer, and Maya had to fight the urge to pull away. "Besides, I worry about you. Is that so wrong? To care about someone you love?" "You don't love me. You never did." "That's not true." And for a moment, Ryan's mask slipped. Maya saw something raw and desperate underneath. "I love you more than anyone else ever could. More than your billionaire boyfriend with his money and his lawyers. I know you, Maya, the real you, all your flaws, all your broken pieces. And I love you anyway." "You hurt me," Maya said quietly. "You put me in the hospital. You made me afraid to exist." "I made mistakes," Ryan admitted. "I let my temper get the best of me sometimes. But that's what happens when you love someone so much it drives you crazy. You made me crazy, Maya. With your lies, your attempts to leave, your constant need to defy me. So it was my fault." Maya felt anger rising, hot and sharp. "That's what you're saying. I made you hit me." "You made me lose control," Ryan corrected. "There's a difference." "No, there isn't." Maya stood up, and Ryan immediately grabbed her wrist. Hard, the exact same way he used to. "We're not done talking," he said, and his voice had gone cold. "Let go of me." "Not until you listen." Ryan stood too, still gripping her wrist. "You belong to me. You've always belonged to me. And this little game you're playing, shacking up with some rich guy, pretending to be happy, it's pathetic. You think he actually wants you? He just wants to feel good about himself, saving the broken woman. But once he realizes how damaged you really are, he'll leave, just like everyone else. You're wrong. Maya tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. She could feel bruises forming. Am I? How long before he gets tired of your nightmares, your panic attacks, your constant need for reassurance? How long before he realizes you're not worth the effort? Ryan pulled her closer, his face inches from hers. I'm the only one who'll never leave, Maya, because I actually love you. Because I own you. You don't own anyone, a new voice said. Ryan spun around to find Ethan standing there, his expression cold as winter. Get the hell away from my fiancé, Ethan said quietly. Ryan laughed. Fiancé? Is that what she told you? We both know she's lying. She's good at that. I know exactly who she is, Ethan said, and I know what you are. An abusive piece of trash who needs to control women because you're terrified of being alone. Ryan's face went red. You don't know anything about us. I know she's done with you. I know you're pathetic enough to stalk her because you can't accept that. And I know you just violated a restraining order and assaulted her on camera. Ryan's eyes widened slightly. He looked around, finally noticing the joggers who'd stopped jogging, the man in the parked car. The way Ethan wasn't the least bit nervous. This is a setup, Ryan said slowly. This is evidence, Ethan corrected. Every word you just said, every admission, all recorded. You can't use that in court. It's entrapment. Actually, a woman's voice called out. It's not. Patricia Morrison walked toward them, phone in hand. Entrapment requires law enforcement inducing someone to commit a crime. This is just a private citizen recording a conversation in a public place, perfectly legal in this state. Ryan's hands clenched into fists. Maya saw the moment he calculated his options, saw the fury building behind his eyes. This isn't over, he snarled. Yes, Ethan said. It is. 2 police cars pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing. Detective Chen stepped out of one along with 2 uniformed officers. Ryan Walker, she called out. We need you to come with us. You're under arrest for violating a restraining order, stalking, and assault. Ryan looked at Maya, and the hatred in his eyes made her step back. You'll regret this, he said softly. Both of you. I doubt it, Maya said, and meant it. The officers handcuffed Ryan and led him away. Maya watched him go, watched him finally being held accountable, and felt something inside her chest crack open. Not breaking. Releasing. The moment the police cars disappeared, her legs gave out. Ethan caught her, lowering them both to the bench. Maya buried her face in his shoulder and started to cry, great gasping sobs that shook her entire body. It's over, Ethan murmured into her hair. It's really over. Is it? Maya pulled back to look at him. What if they let him go? What if he makes bail? What if... Then we deal with it, Ethan said firmly. But Maya, we got him. On tape, admitting to everything. Assaulting you where multiple people saw. Violating a restraining order. Patricia says that's enough for criminal charges, maybe even jail time. Patricia crouched beside them. He's going away, Maya. Maybe not forever, but long enough for you to build a life he can't touch. And with this evidence, we can push for a permanent restraining order. Make it clear that any future contact results in immediate arrest. Maya nodded, still crying, but these tears felt different. Cleaner somehow, like washing away years of accumulated dirt. They stayed at the park for another hour, giving statements, going over details with the police. By the time they finally headed home, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. In the car, Ethan reached over and took Maya's hand. You were incredibly brave today, he said. I was terrified. Brave and terrified aren't mutually exclusive. He squeezed her hand. You faced him. You stood your ground. You took your life back. We took it back, Maya corrected. I couldn't have done any of this alone. Good thing you're not alone anymore. When they got home, Lily ran to greet them, her face anxious. You were gone forever, she complained. Mrs. Chen said you had important stuff, but she wouldn't tell me what, and I was worried. Maya knelt down to Lily's level. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but everything's okay now. Better than okay. Promise? Promise. Maya pulled her into a hug. From now on, things are going to be really, really good. That night, after Lily was asleep, Maya and Ethan sat together on the back porch despite the cold. The sky was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. What happens now? Maya asked. Now you heal. We both do. Ethan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. We stop waiting for the other shoe to drop and start actually living. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I, really. He smiled at her. But I think we figure it out together. Make mistakes, fix them, make new ones. That's what life is, right? Maya leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you, she said quietly. I don't think I've said that yet, but I do. I love you. I love you too. Ethan kissed the top of her head. Have for a while now, actually. Since when? Since about a week after you moved in. You were helping Lily with her homework, and she got frustrated and threw her pencil. You didn't get mad. You just picked it up and showed her a different way to think about the problem. And I thought, yeah, that's it. That's the person I want beside me. Maya smiled against his shoulder. That's a very specific moment. Love usually is. It's not the grand gestures. It's the small things. The moments when someone shows you who they really are. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching their breath cloud in the cold air. I'm still going to have bad days, Maya said eventually. Panic attacks, nightmares, moments where I'm convinced this is all going to fall apart. I know. And I'm probably going to need therapy for years. Maybe forever. Okay? And sometimes I might push you away because I'm scared of being hurt again. I'll be here anyway. Ethan turned to look at her. Maya, I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for real. And real is messy and complicated and sometimes painful, but it's also worth it. Maya felt tears building again, but these were good tears. Happy tears. When this is really over, she said, when Ryan's sentenced and the restraining order is permanent and we can breathe again, ask me. Ask you what? You know what. Maya met his eyes. You said not yet earlier. When the time is right, ask me. Ethan's smile was bright enough to rival the stars. Yeah? Yeah. He kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. And for the first time in her entire adult life, Maya let herself believe in happy endings. The next 3 months were a whirlwind. Ryan was formally charged with stalking, assault, and multiple violations of the restraining order. His lawyers tried every trick in the book, but the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the photos, the documented pattern of abuse stretching back years. In April, he pled guilty as part of a deal. 2 years in prison, followed by 5 years probation with strict conditions. A permanent restraining order that would follow him forever. Maya was there for the sentencing. She sat in the courtroom, Ethan on one side and Patricia on the other, and watched Ryan in his prison jumpsuit trying to maintain dignity he'd never actually possessed. When the judge asked if she wanted to make a statement, Maya stood. She looked at Ryan directly for the first time since his arrest. You tried to break me, she said, her voice steady. You spent 3 years convincing me I was worthless, that I deserved the pain you inflicted, that no one else would ever want me. And for a long time I believed you. Ryan wouldn't meet her eyes. But you were wrong, Maya continued. I'm not broken. I'm not worthless. And I sure as hell don't belong to you. I belong to myself. And I choose to give myself to people who actually deserve me. She sat back down, Ethan's hand finding hers immediately. The judge delivered the sentence. Ryan was led away without looking back. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. The case had gotten some media attention. Billionaire's girlfriend versus abusive ex. Patricia handled them with practiced ease while Ethan hustled Maya to the car. How do you feel? He asked once they were safely inside. Maya thought about it. Free, she said finally. For the first time in years, I feel free. That evening, they celebrated. Lily didn't fully understand what they were celebrating, but she was happy to have cake for dinner and stay up past bedtime. After she finally crashed, exhausted from excitement, Maya and Ethan found themselves back in their usual spot on the couch. So, Ethan said, sounding nervous in a way Maya had never heard before. The thing you told me to ask. When the time was right, Maya's heart started pounding. Yeah? Is the time right? He was actually fidgeting, this billionaire who commanded boardrooms without breaking a sweat. Because I've been carrying this around for 2 weeks, and I keep waiting for the perfect moment. But I'm starting to think there's no such thing as perfect. There's just now. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Maya's breath caught. I had a whole speech planned, Ethan said, opening the box to reveal a simple, beautiful ring. About how you changed my life, how you brought light back into this house, how I can't imagine a future without you. But all of that seems obvious, so I'm just going to ask. Ethan, marry me. It wasn't quite a question, more like a statement of fact. Marry me and let's make this official. You, me, Lily, a real family. No more temporary, no more waiting for disaster. Just us, building something permanent. Maya looked at the ring, looked at Ethan's hopeful, nervous face, looked at the life they'd built together in this house. 6 months ago, she'd been sleeping in shelters, convinced she'd never escape Ryan's shadow. Now she was here, being offered everything she'd never let herself dream of. Yes, she said, and started crying. Yes, absolutely yes. Ethan's smile could have lit up the entire city. He slipped the ring on her finger, it fit perfectly, and pulled her into his arms. I love you, he murmured into her hair. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know that. I love you too. Maya pulled back to kiss him. All of you, your daughter, your house, your terrible cooking. My cooking is not terrible. Your cooking is absolutely terrible, Maya said, laughing through her tears. But I love you anyway. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other, planning a future that felt impossibly bright. Upstairs, Lily shifted in her sleep, dreaming of the family she'd wished for and somehow received. And outside, snow began to fall again, covering the world in fresh white silence. A clean slate. A new beginning. Maya and Ethan were married in June, in the backyard of the house where they'd built their life together. It was small, just close friends and family. Lily, as the flower girl wearing a dress she'd picked out herself, insisted was fancy enough for a princess. Patricia Morrison was there, along with Dr. Mitchell and Mrs. Chen. Even Carla, the private investigator, showed up with a gift. As Maya walked down the makeshift aisle, no one to give her away because she belonged to herself, she caught Ethan's eye and saw everything she needed reflected back. Love, safety, home. The ceremony was simple. They'd written their own vows. Ethan went first. I promise to choose you every day, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Even on the hard days, especially on the hard days. I promise to be patient with your healing, to stand beside you through the nightmares, to remind you of your strength when you forget. I promise to love Lily as our daughter, to build a family with you, to never make you face anything alone again. Maya's turn. I promise to let you love me, she said, tears already streaming, to stop waiting for disaster and start believing in happiness. I promise to be brave enough to stay, to work through the hard stuff instead of running, to build a life with you instead of just surviving. I promise to love your daughter as my own, to be the partner you deserve, to choose you every single day. Lily, standing between them, holding their rings, beamed like she'd personally orchestrated the whole thing. When the officiant pronounced them married, Ethan pulled Maya into a kiss that made half the guests cheer and Lily cover her eyes while giggling. At the reception, Lily gave a toast that was mostly about wanting a puppy now that they were a real family, which got more laughs than any adult speech could have managed. Later, as they danced under string lights hung in the trees, Ethan whispered, No regrets? Not a single one, Maya said. You? Only that I didn't find you sooner. We found each other when we needed to, Maya said. That's what matters. She looked around at the life they'd built. At friends laughing, at Lily dancing with Mrs. Chen, at the house that had become home, at the future stretching out before them, uncertain but hopeful. Maya had learned something important through all of this, that strength wasn't about never being broken. It was about having the courage to put yourself back together. That love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone willing to stand beside you through imperfect, messy, complicated reality. That sometimes the bravest thing you could do was ask for help, and that happy endings weren't about everything being fixed or perfect. They were about choosing, every single day, to keep trying, to keep fighting for the life you wanted instead of accepting the one fear told you deserved. As the party wound down and guests started leaving, Lily crashed on the couch inside, exhausted but happy. Maya and Ethan stood together in the backyard, watching the last of the sun set behind the trees. What are you thinking? Ethan asked. Maya smiled. That 6 months ago, I asked you if I could come home with you, and you said one night, best decision I ever made. Worst decision, Maya corrected. I was trouble from the start. The best kind of trouble. Ethan pulled her closer. The kind worth fighting for. Inside, Lily stirred on the couch and called out sleepily for her parents. Both of them. Not just Daddy, parents. Maya and Ethan went inside together, ready to tuck their daughter into bed and begin the next chapter of their imperfect, beautiful, hard-won life. And if Maya still had nightmares sometimes, if she still checked the locks obsessively, if she still had moments where fear tried to convince her this was all too good to be true, well, that was okay. Because healing wasn't linear. Recovery wasn't a straight line from broken to fixed. It was messy and complicated, and sometimes you took steps backward. But as long as you kept moving, kept choosing to try, kept believing you deserved better, that was enough. Maya had learned to be her own hero first, and then she'd learned to let someone stand beside her as an equal partner in the fight. That was the real victory. Not defeating Ryan, though that helped. Not getting married or building a family, though those were wonderful. The real victory was learning that she was worth fighting for, that her voice mattered, that she deserved safety and love and happiness. And on the nights when doubt crept in, when old fears whispered that she wasn't enough, Maya had Ethan beside her, reminding her of her strength. And in the morning, she had Lily bouncing into their room demanding pancakes and adventure. She had a life, a real one, built on her own terms. And that, Maya had learned, was the only happy ending that mattered. The kind you fought for, claimed, and defended with everything you had. The kind that was real.